Welcome to the Evening Review with your host, Ashwin Mbedi. Today's subject is the creative industry, and who better than Tjuna Daringo, Vice Chairperson of Namibia Filmmakers Association, to help us dig into the subject. Tjuna, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been quite the year. Exciting times for creatives.
Absolutely. It is also a pivotal time, really. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come.
Yes, indeed. I mean, let's talk about where the conversations really started blowing up with regards to the creative industry. Most recently, it would be marked by the new administration of Her Excellency Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. She has devoted a specific focus to the creative industry, to the film industry, to make sure that it can be more expansive. And of course, we understand Bank of Namibia is hosting a symposium soon, and we're going to be talking creative industry and creative economy. Has it been as exciting for you as a creative? Because, I mean, yes, of course, you're the vice chair of the Namibia Filmmakers Association, but as a creative, has that excitement trickled down to you as well?
The excitement has definitely trickled down. Obviously, now more than ever, we're receiving so much attention, and attention in terms of, also curiosity. People want to know, how does the industry function, and what's the business side of film, what's the business side of a fashion business, and also how do we support that, and also how can we learn. So I think that for me, what's most exciting is when I'm engaging certain, industry leaders from other sectors, and they're just curious about wanting to know how the industry functions and works.
Yes.
So I think for me, that's the most creative. Sorry, guys, we say creative all the time.
We're going to be saying it a lot.
But that's the most exciting part for me, and so I think it's a learning journey for a lot of people that are not within the industry.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm excited to be part of whether it's the education side of things or whether it's the policy side of things. So it's an exciting time for me.
Where I mean, of course, we're looking into the future, which is fantastic. And towards the end of the conversation, really dig into with regards to what we're looking forward to with regards to the policy. Right. But let's talk about the present. Where are we right now as a creative industry, as a film industry right now in Namibia? Do you feel that, and I'm sure you don't, but I'd like you to explain, feel that we are operating at our optimum capability?
I think, first of all, long and short of it, I would say no. We're definitely not at the optimum. But also, I think that right now we are, not I think, but I know that we are at a point where a lot of things need to be implemented, right? So it's almost as if we're in the, cooking phase of structure. And last year, we were, identified, the Filmmakers Association identified to be part of some policy engagement where you would then inform NDP6, which is the National Development Plan, as to what are your goals, but also what is your potential in terms of job creation, right? Because those numbers matter. And this was just before our president, was inaugurated. So it was such a pivotal time that, because these numbers have to inform, what support or what level of support we're going to receive in terms of, financial support. So right now, I think we're at a point where we're trying to implement certain structures within the creative sector. However, there's a lot that still needs to be done, to ready us, for the success of the industry. And that is, both from government side and also both from, just the creative side of things. Yeah.
So, I mean, we essentially talk about professionalizing the industry.
Exactly.
And of course, the government has its responsibility with regards to structure, with regards to policy. But let's talk about the creator's responsibility. What do you feel are a creator's responsibility right now in making sure that they'll be able to measure up, that they'll be able to deliver once the government comes to the table? Well, the government's already at the table. Once the government, fulfills its end of the deal.
I love that question because, oftentimes we look to the government and we look to, private sector. You guys need to do this for us. You need to do this for us. But a lot of times, the accountability is not always there, right? And if we're saying that we want to be competitive, not just locally, but also internationally, what does that look like for me as a creative? Do I need to upskill? Do I need to find, collaborators outside the country, because we know our limitations. We know that it's financial. Yes, maybe we have not been receiving enough government support, but even apart from that, it's been difficult for us to get market access, because our market is so small. And it limits us in terms of, how much we can exploit our own content. And so if we're not able to penetrate other industries, or at least make ourselves appeal to other industries, then it becomes difficult to leverage off of the full potential of what the success of it looks like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if government gives you $2 million right now and you create a film, what is your end goal? How do you plan on making that money back? Yes, you'll employ a number of people, but after that, how do you make sure that that return on investment, is actually, beneficial, it's actually realized? And so a lot of times that is limited by our own or lack of capacity to develop ourselves, to upskill ourselves, and to also to be able to sell ourselves. You know what I mean? So whether it's going to online, we live in a digital space. There's so many people that you can find online. But we have to collaborate.
Yes.
We have to collaborate with countries from the outside, whether it's regionally or internationally, and we have to be able to know what do these markets want and how can I fulfill some of these needs so that I can create content that appeals to not just Namibia but also outside. And that requires sometimes, having more than one skill.
Yes.
For example, if you're a producer, go into editing as well. We're getting into a AI, digital space, and a lot of people are not leveraging off of that because they're limiting themselves and they're saying, "Oh, I'm only a writer. Oh, I'm only, a music producer." But there's so many other opportunities that you can explore that could actually help you get more income, not just from Namibia, but also from the outside.
Definitely.
So I think that we need to really start looking at ourselves and see how can we better prepare ourselves for the future and how can we be more competitive.
Yeah. So it's not just about seeing ourselves as creative artists. It's about seeing ourselves as a creative business.
Yes, exactly.
And how am I going to sustain myself with that? And that's where it gets tricky for a lot of artists because you and I don't have to disassociate. We're both artists. We have this tendency to spend so much effort in creating that the expression itself is what we want to be the end goal.
And that's why they don't take us seriously.
They don't take us seriously because I've given you the poem. Now I must turn it into a business. Now I must do this. Yeah. Do you think also that because you and I we were just talking just before we came on set, we acted in a David Njavera production. This was in 2016. My goodness, time flies, and rest in peace, Uncle David Njavera. But one of the things that the NTN managed to cultivate for us there was a sense of mentorship. You were coming more from the film sector, and I was always in the theater sector, but we had so much to learn from each other because David Njavera had been in both spaces, and we had this towering figure, who could really push us through and help us understand what we can get out of ourselves creatively. Do we also feel like perhaps the other artists, the older artists, or maybe the veteran artists, could be doing more to mentor young artists with regards to getting into this professional industry? Of course, they also have issues, and they also didn't get the most out of the industry. But a couple of our acts have, occasionally, really exported themselves. Big Ben, Erna Chimu, rest in peace, Ras Shiyama. We've got quite a few artists who have really, managed at times to, captivate European audiences, that kind of thing. What can we do with regards to mentorship?
I think in regards to mentorship, when it comes from, our industry veterans, they've also, in as much as, they have made some fundamental strides within this industry, and we stand on their shoulders, sincerely. But I think that also one thing that is lacking in terms of mentorship is also them teaching us the mistakes that they've made. How could we do things differently today? Yes, you didn't have government support, but, how can we learn from your footsteps? You know what I mean? Okay, you tried this route, you tried that route, and it didn't work. And, maybe you now know why it didn't work. You know what I mean? And kind of like just, steer us in the right direction. But for me, mentorship is really more towards the private sector. You know, for me, that's where I would look to mentorship for, because, you know, like we said earlier on, we're trying to professionalize the industry. We're
Yes.
trying to create more structure. So if you know that you are creative and all you do is write and all you do is produce music, but you're not so very well acquainted with the business side of it, get a mentor.
Yes.
Get a specialist to do it for you. You know, a lot of times also we think that we can do everything on our own, but companies are hiring accountants.
Yes.
They're hiring administrators. So what makes your business so different from, you know, any other entity within any other industry? And a lot of times business leaders will tell you that, listen, I can't even do what my employees do, you know, but that's why I hire the expertise so that the business can thrive.
Yes.
Now, while I know that obviously we don't have the financial support to have that type of, you know, structure within the creative industry, a lot of us are multi-talented and also we're multi-skilled. You know, I may be an accountant, although I'm a script writer. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So why don't we find out from each other and say, what can you do? What do you do apart from acting? What do you do apart from singing? What are those other skills that, you know, sort of like would complement us, or we can use to complement each other, and that would, you know, essentially also elevate our business. But the other thing is also that, or the other issue that I have as well is that locally we don't collaborate enough. You know what I mean? And a lot of times people want to take that shine and say, I did this, you know, by myself. But if we say, no, listen, let's just start a small production company where you do acting and I do the music, but at least our business has got the accountant that works for both of us, you know, or the IT guy that works for both of us. And we don't think like that, you know. So I think that we really need to try and stop being each other's competitors,
Yes.
especially in such a small industry, and actually be each other's mentors in that sense. You know?
Last week, Tjuna, I had the country director of Shell operations in Namibia in the evening review. And he made it a point to highlight that with all these companies coming into Namibia, yes, there is competition, but ultimately the competition is for Namibia. Once we come together, we're trying to make sure that Namibia is on the map. And so I really understand what you're talking about. I've seen, you know, microcosms of it. I remember there was a time where we had a poet who would help us do our taxes, help us understand
That's
our taxes.
it.
There was, you know, that kind of community support, because, you know,
Absolutely.
the numbers and the words, they don't always collaborate as well as you would like them to do. But that collaboration is absolutely essential. We're going to go into a break shortly, Tjuna, but what I would like to talk about on the other side of the break is what's really stopping us from collaborating. Is it perhaps the fact that we're now in this hyper individualistic society where if you have a TikTok page, you basically have a channel and you are sorted and you're the cute one there? Or is there another underlying factor? This is the evening review. Back soon. I am here with the Vice Chairperson of the Namibia Filmmakers Association, Mrs. Tjuna Daringo, and we have been talking about the Namibian creative industry and how to expand it, how to grow it, and how to professionalize it. And just before the break, we had started talking about the importance of collaboration. What do you feel? And keep in mind, you know, this is not a broad stroke of a paintbrush. There are Namibians who are collaborating. A lot of them are collaborating in different ways. You know, sometimes, you know, the bands, you see you've hired one band, then the other band can come and assist the other. People are collaborating. But in a broader sense, I think we could be doing more to reach out to each other. What do you think is making that more difficult? Is it because an individual is now a brand? And once you're a brand, what's the use of interacting with others?
I think also it's a thing of us not knowing our strong points and us wanting to have the spotlight on ourselves. You know what I mean? And a lot of people just don't understand that, you know, you can have your spotlight within a different capacity. It doesn't have to be that person that's at the front, that's, you know, the lead actor or that's holding the mic, you know. So I think that a lot of times we tend to undermine our ability to also just stand out even in the roles that seem less glamorous and, you know, less visible. So And that's why we also don't tend to, perfect certain crafts. You know what I mean? But I think that with the exposure that people are having now, I think gradually people are starting to realize that, oh no, we need to actually be like a team.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So now it's just the how, that's not fully there. So some people, yes, are all about their own brand and I need to be visible. It's all about me, 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 me. But then I think they're actually a group of individuals that also just don't know how to package themselves.
Yes.
So that packaging is, also where I was alluding to earlier on, is where, private sector expertise or other, type of expertise needs to come in to help elevate, those potentials.
Yes.
So symposiums, I mean, like, the Bank of Namibia symposium tomorrow maybe might, be able to, assist on that. I think we need to do further workshopping. We need to do further, just
grassroots.
Exactly,
Yes.
grassroots. Let's take it back to the
Basics.
The basics.
Yeah.
Let's see, from the foundation of your business, what does that look like? What does a team look like?
Yeah.
And how can you guys all thrive in your different roles, and how can you be supportive of each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had previously mentioned the private sector.
Yeah.
How much of a part do they need to play in the development? Because you get the feeling that they're waiting for the creatives to hit a certain point. In that meantime, there's a lot of outsourcing. And I know that's frustrating for the average Namibian creative, where you see the ad says Namibia, the email on the ad says Namibia, the actors immediately you can say they are not Namibian. Peace and love to our South African brothers and sisters.
We love you guys.
We love you guys, and we love
But you guys
everybody
don't use
else.
us
Yes,
also for your campaigns.
We generally do not get called to South Africa for their campaigns. So, should the private sector be a part of the development strategy, not just the output?
Absolutely. At the public-private forum, I actually called out the private sector during my speech, and I said that, listen, even you, I think I mentioned stock of uranium or something like that, and I said, even you guys have a role to play. It's not just up to the president to do everything for us. So please, private sector, come and do your part. Support us, whether it's financially or just like mentoring, like we're saying, and also being intentional about, okay, if we're going to do a Namibian campaign, let it be a full Namibian campaign.
Yes.
And also, let's benchmark what the rates look like. Because we're such a new industry and, we don't have, much previous history of, apart from the smaller gigs, honestly, I wouldn't even use the rates that Namibians generally would get paid for, as a benchmarking rate. I would look at what is the regional, what do the regional standards look like, and how do we benchmark against those standards?
Yes.
Because we're looking at sustainability. So if you give me something that I can only use to pay my rent this month, what's going to happen to my rent next month while I'm still waiting for the next gig?
Absolutely.
Because our industry, is still sort of like what do they call it? We're still listed under entertainment. You know what I mean?
Not the creative economy.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're not like we're not the oil and gas sector.
Yeah.
We're not the
Yet there's middle ground, because for example, there's a lot of companies
Yes.
coming in now with oil and gas, with green hydrogen.
Yes.
All of them need to be talking about what they're doing, telling stories, and that's what artists do.
That's what artists
Yes.
do. We help you elevate your brand.
Yes.
Like the Doubters Green Village. If you look at the Doubters Green Village on YouTube, I love what they've done.
Yes.
They have really documented everything from the beginning till now, and they've used a lot of creatives on there. And I believe one of your voices is also one of your voices.
One of my voices.
Your voice is on one of their videos as well.
Yes.
So and this is sort of like how we can sustainably help each other.
Definitely.
And keep on supporting each other. But also in terms of funding, I think we can say that, okay, guys, we want to build this artist who's got this potential. She's a musician, and how about we send it to one of the biggest stages out there. Let's
Yes.
support her.
Yeah.
Or Miss Namibia right now,
Yes.
why don't we invest more into her by getting her clothing, Or if it's a film, guys, this year we're producing another large film. De Beers is coming on board. MTC is coming on board. We're going to make sure that we make an internationally standard,
Yeah.
film.
International standard film, yeah.
Exactly. So
100%.
that's It's really easy, but I don't know why we're not doing it.
Yes, just taking that extra step. And, with my work with The Gathering and all those shows, the one thing that no one is going to tell us is that there's no talent. No one's going to tell us that.
Absolutely.
In Namibia, there is absolute talent in every single industry. But I do think the development has to be quite strategic. Okay, we look at Network Media Hub. They have interns who come in, and these interns get an opportunity to be in every section of the building. So where the issue comes in is often when private sector sees someone who's talented, it's about, okay, how can we leverage what they are, but not how can we help them create a sustainable professional career, because it's too late for things not to be professional. There's Namibians with 1 million followers on TikTok, 1 million followers on Instagram, and we are the Namibia brand. We are the spokespeople for the Namibia brand. We, all due respect, and I mean this truly, the world will always listen to our president, but the storytelling around Namibia is going to come from the artist. Even she's going to refer to the artist when it's time to tell the story of Namibia. Why? Because artists are always interacting with spaces that everyone else takes for granted. So we're trying to develop this industry, and right now the government has come to the table. It says, okay, we're going to sort out policy, we're going to sort out structure. What do the artists do for now?
Upskill. Honestly, I cannot talk about capacity building enough. For me, it's just, upskilling, because in as much as, for example, if you do get, like I was saying earlier on, if you do get the money, you need to be so prepared for it that you need to create a sustainable platform for yourself, or it's at least like a sustainable business for yourself. But you need to also be equipped, for it as well. So apart from, getting further, whether it's education or,
Experience.
or experience, or, you attend different workshopping, I think like we are in such an agile environment, and people need to realize that honestly, the world is, because it's now a global stage, right? It's more competitive than ever. So I've always had this dream in the last, not always, maybe in the last 2 years, might be lying there. But when I was looking at AI, and when I was looking at tech, the developments within the tech industry, I'm just like, guys, the money is actually on your PC.
Definitely.
So one of my visions for this country is honestly for Namibia to become like a post-production hub. You know what I mean? Let's export our services while we're in the comfort of our homes. You know what I mean? And that doesn't only have to be editing, but that can be, content creation, or it can look like, marketing services, or, for certain companies. But you need to be so excellent, and you need to be so good at what you do, so that even people outside don't have or can't turn a blind eye. You know what I mean?
And you would know about this, Tjuna, because you were recently in a film where you worked with international actors. And you got in person with people we've seen in huge Hollywood blockbusters, in huge South African blockbusters, and you were interacting with them. I mean, surely, aside from the fact that you're a fantastic actress yourself and you put your best foot forward, surely experiences like that grow your art as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, because you're like, oh my gosh, I need to be doing more.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I have just arrived. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Compared to what those guys are doing, you feel so small. But at the same time, you feel like, there's room for growth. There's room for potential.
Yes.
Because the thing is, I need to be so good that the same way I noticed this guy, and said, I need him to be on my movie. Why can't somebody look at me and say, I need this person on my movie?
I'm going to reveal something you won't know that I remember from years ago. And as we're reflecting, it's probably close to 10 years ago. You had just come from California promoting the Katutura film. And you said, Ashwin, there's a bunch of us there. There are a bunch of us talented people there. We need to find a way to stand out. How do you think Namibian creatives can stand out in this global creative economy?
For me, it's all about excellence. Honestly, it's a time to stop playing small. It's a time to stop, doing mediocre work. Not that we're all doing mediocre work, please. Please. A lot of us are doing excellent and beautiful work. We just need a platform, and we just need the market for it. But that's now where sort of like, you need to now ask yourself, what else can I do to make myself more visible? And that's why I was talking about, reaching out and connecting to people and making sure that, you're visible even outside the region.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Tjuna, for joining us
Thank
on
you
the
so much for the
evening review.
conversation.
We certainly hope to have you back. I've just been talking to Tjuna Daringo, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Namibia Filmmakers Association, about the state of the creative sector and what we need to do, not just to professionalize it, but to make sure that the world recognizes that the Namibia brand is here to stay.